Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang. Chapter 1531. Not bad. Gale nodded in satisfaction. I rarely see you so obedient. Gale, are you trying to educate me? Shawn asked. She paused and suddenly felt guilty. I'm just kidding. Did you forget what you've done? Faking death? Forging identities? Living under Molly's name? Hiding me from Joshua? Shawn asked. Oh, I'm done applying the medicine. Be careful not to touch water. Gale deliberately interrupted him loudly. She discarded the cotton swab and gently blew on his wound. A cool breeze swept through. All done. You can put on your shirt now. I'll reapply the medicine when we get home tonight, Gale said. She handed him the shirt. Shawn sat straight, slowly buttoning it up. However, his gaze remained fixed on Gale. She really messed up this time. How could he exploit it? He had to think carefully. Gale dared not meet his eyes, avoiding his gaze. Gale, I'm not done talking about this, Shawn spoke lightly. Her face drooped. The inevitable had come. She could not avoid it. Gale swallowed. Just send me to Synopsis to accompany Joe and the others? What benefit does it bring to me if you go to Synopsis? How could he bear it? A day without seeing her felt like an eternity. He wished to see her every moment, every hour, every day. Sending Gale to Synopsis would torture Shawn, and he would not do something foolish like that. Then what do you want? Be direct. Give me a straightforward answer. Gale pursed her lips. There's no straightforward answer. We'll take it slowly. Gale was worried. She really wanted to go to Synopsis. If she had gone and returned, Shawn's anger would likely have dissipated. She would hand the two children over to him, let him care for them, and experience being a super dad for a while. Since they had not seen each other for a long time, Shawn would probably miss her a lot. In that case, he would not hold a grudge against her. Unfortunately, reality was cruel. Oh well, she had to accept her fate. Don't think about it. You will never go to Synopsis in this lifetime. Shawn stood up and placed his hand on her head. You can only be by my side. She struggled weakly. Then, how about Canada? Shawn raised an eyebrow. Canada? Yes, you just gave Joe two options, Synopsis or Canada. Did he choose Synopsis? Gale nodded. He did. Why? Canada is obviously better than Synopsis. Why would Joe look so weird when he heard Canada instead of Synopsis? Gale was a bit curious and very puzzled. There was a story behind this. Most people would choose Canada. However, Joe gave it up without hesitation, as if Shawn would kick him to Canada if he hesitated for a second. Shawn raised a hint of a mysterious smile. Do you want to know? Chapter 1532. Gale nodded repeatedly. Yes. She sensed gossip. Shawn and Joe had been friends for many years. Knowing each other inside out, there must be something fishy going on. There's someone Joe doesn't want to meet there. If he goes, that person will get wind of it. They will force a meeting. Shawn replied, Is that a person a man or a woman? Shawn remained silent, just straightening his scuffs and heading out. Gale's appetite for gossip was left hanging, and she could not let him leave. She hurriedly caught up and asked, Answer me, is it a man or a woman? Hey, Shawn, if you don't say anything, it must be a woman. Because no man would make Joe so terrified that he'd rather choose Synopsis. Could it be Joe's ex? Or maybe his first love? Or someone he loved deeply but couldn't be with? Gale trailed along like a little tail, chattering nonstop beside Shawn. Shawn remained silent throughout. Talk! You're making me anxious. Did I guess correctly? Summer can't be a backup option for him. Gale took the initiative to hold his hand, intertwining their fingers. Joe looks like a playboy, but when you said he has no romantic history, I believed you. So I've been encouraging her to be with him. If he has many emotional entanglements, that won't work. She seems carefree, but she hides all her pain in her heart. I don't want her, such an optimistic and cheerful person, to suffer. Shawn still did not say anything, just tightening his grip on her hand and continuing toward the operating room. Gale was getting desperate. She needed to know. She had to protect Summer. Right before she was about to lose her temper, Shawn spoke. You should ask Joe himself. How can I? It's not my place to ask. Yeah, it's not your place. Why are you bothering about it? Gale replied. But I want to know. I can ask you. You tell me everything, won't you? No. She was silent. Shawn remained composed. Anyway, when you get the chance, ask him face to face or ask Summer to ask for herself. Summer? Gale sighed. The relationship between Joe and Summer was originally unclear. They were more than friends but less than lovers. Based on what she knew about Summer, she would not ask such private questions. Besides, it could involve other women. Summer was sensitive and careful, who would rather be single than bow to a man. You don't understand women. What's Summer's current status? A girlfriend? No, it's just a bet. What position and right does she have to inquire about Joe's private matters? Gale said. If she's not a girlfriend, then she shouldn't do what girlfriends do. There's a limit. That's discretion. But Shawn, I think differently from you. Really? Tell me your perspective. If they can't communicate and resolve such small issues between them, then what will they do when faced with even bigger conflicts in the future? Gale blinked, convinced by his words. If she really wants to know, she will ask. If Joe really wants to be with her, he will confess voluntarily. Between two people who truly love each other, there shouldn't be so many secrets, Shawn said. Chapter 1533. The one who loves will naturally learn how to love you and how to make you feel secure. Those with a genuine heart don't need to be taught, and those without it won't learn. Gale nodded. You're right. You understand that, and that's good. But I still want to know about the person in Canada. Shawn pursed his lips. He felt like everything he said earlier was in vain. You speak in such a cryptic way. If you're so knowledgeable, how come our relationship is so rocky, so messed up? You're a theorist, not a practitioner, Gale asked. Wrong, Gale. Where did I go wrong? Shawn said. It's precisely because our journey has been so tough, and we've endured so much hardship to be together, that I've gained practical experience. I've been through it, and that's why I've developed these theories. Gale was stunned. She could not argue with Shawn. So annoying. If this man decided to be serious, she could not win against him even if she had 10 mouths. His mind worked too fast. Seeing her dejected look, Shawn ruffled her hair. I'm not fussed. Don't be too. Gale exploded. Whatever. He just chuckled. The two approached the entrance of the operating room. Mary was sitting on a bench, already dozing off. Peter stood nearby, his brows furrowed tightly. When he saw Gale, his eyes lit up slightly. Gale, you're awake. Yes, Dad. Sorry to make you worry. It's okay. Peter held her shoulders, carefully examining her. No injuries, right? None. All right. Josh was not in critical condition anymore. Thank goodness. Just as he said, the lights in the operating room suddenly went out. Mary woke up with a start, her eyes bloodshot. Joshua? The door of the operating room opened slowly. The doctor walked out, removing his mask. "Everything is fine," the doctor said. "Rest assured, there's no life-threatening danger, but he needs to stay in the hospital for recovery. Fortunately, the injuries didn't affect his internal organs. However, you should pay special attention to the patient's mental health. A child facing such great danger may suffer psychological trauma." The head nurse had given the same advice before. Everyone thought a child would either cry and fuss upon waking up or remain silent. However, Gale had news about Joshua. He was not a fragile child. He was brave. Brave enough to use himself in exchange for her safety. The nurses pushed Joshua's bed out. He lay there quietly, eyes closed, his face and lips extremely pale. He wore an oxygen mask, with his hands connected to an IV drip. The bloodstains on his body had been cleaned. He had not looked as gruesome and terrifying as before. "Joshua." Gale stepped forward, softly calling his name. Joshua's eyelids twitched. Chapter 1534. He slowly opened his eyes, just a little, and glanced at Gale. Big beauty," he said, then closed his eyes, drifting back to sleep. He felt so exhausted, and every part of his body ached. He had no strength left. "I'm here. You go ahead and sleep. There's nothing to worry about now. I'm safe, and so are you," Gale replied. Joshua did not respond further, peacefully drifting into sleep. He slept so calmly and obediently. Gale leaned down and placed a kiss on his forehead. The doctor had arranged for Joshua to be in a premium ward instead of a critical condition monitoring ward. Meanwhile, news about Pearson came through. "Mr. Wood." The captain stood at the door of the ward, knocking lightly. "Speak." "Pearson is no longer in critical condition. However, his injuries are still severe. Whether he can survive remains to be seen. The doctor says he might need to stay in the intensive care unit for at least half a month," the captain reported. After a few seconds of contemplation, Shawn spoke. "He will receive full treatment. Also, arrange for a private plane to bring in the top foreign surgical specialist to treat Pearson. When necessary, you can use all available resources at your disposal. No need to consult me. Spare no expense to ensure Pearson's survival." "Yes, Mr. Wood." The captain sighed inwardly. Pearson had put his life on the line. If he lost, both Pearson and Joshua would be lost. If he won, the Wood family would owe Pearson a life. It was a gamble that not everyone dared to take. The captain did not quite understand why Pearson did this. Was it worthy for wealth and glory? What use were those without a life? What was Pearson thinking? Why did he choose that? At that time, almost all of Shawn's bodyguards were present. In the end, only Pearson stepped forward, daring to take risks, act, and stake his life. If Pearson survived this time, he would have a lot of good days waiting for him in the future. Gale heard the news and said, That's great. As long as there's a glimmer of hope for Pearson, a chance for treatment, I won't give up on him." "We won't give up on him, Gale." "Yes, Shawn. Pearson is our family's savior. Without him, Joshua might have died." Gale did not dare to think further. Fortunately, she only needed to wait for Joshua to wake up. Gale felt her heart ache when she saw the bandage around his neck. She stood by the bed. The only thing she could do was quietly wait. Mary and Peter looked haggard, yet also relieved. "Dad, Mom, you both should go home and rest. When Joshua wakes up, I'll let you know." Gale looked at them. Peter nodded. "Okay, we can't be of much help here. Gale, take care of yourself too. Your throat is still hoarse. Speak less, drink more water, and have some lozenges," Mary said. "Don't worry, Mom." She got up to see her parents off. When she returned, there was a cup of warm water and a box of lozenges on the table by the bedside. Gale's heart warmed. Shawn clearly prepared it. There was a note on the side. I've got home. We'll come over in the evening. Contact me if you need anything. The handwriting was elegant. Gale put a lozenge into her mouth, and the cool sensation eased the discomfort in her throat. It no longer felt scratchy. She realized it was already dark when she looked out the window. Chapter 1535. She did not know how she got through the day. At this moment, there was finally a profound sense of tranquility. Shawn walked into the living room in Temperley Hall and heard Nicole's tender voice. "Daddy!" His features softened a lot. "Nicole, why did you come home so late? Were you working overtime at the company? I've been waiting for you to have dinner together." Nicole blinked her big, sparkling eyes. Shawn approached her and patted her head. "Why haven't you eaten yet?" "I want to eat with you. It's not fun to eat alone. By the way, where's Mommy?" Nicole looked around. "She has something to attend to and won't be coming home tonight." Nicole's little face almost wrinkled up. "Why? What could she be so busy with that she won't come home? If Mom is not here, who will tell me stories and put me to sleep?" "I can tell stories too, Nicole. What Mommy does, Daddy can do as well," Shawn said. Nicole reluctantly nodded. "All right." Shawn lifted his daughter. He knew Gale's attention was all with Joshua at this moment. She would not leave the ward. Therefore, he came home to take care of Nicole. It was better not to let her know about Joshua's dangerous situation to avoid scaring her. Girls were generally more sensitive. Shawn took on the role of a nurturing dad, having dinner with his daughter, helping her with homework, doing crafts, checking her homework, and finally telling bedtime stories. Although he was a bit rusty, he was incredibly patient. Holding a storybook, Shawn finished telling the story of Snow White. The queen received her punishment, and the prince married Snow White. From then on, they lived a happy life together. "Daddy doesn't know how to keep people in suspense. When Mommy tells stories, she always stops halfway," Nicole commented, though satisfied. "Why?" "She says the story's too long, so she tells me to sleep early." Shawn subconsciously glanced at the time. Indeed, it was a bit late. He only had a little experience in taking care of kids. "Rest early. Good night." Shawn looked at his daughter with a gentle gaze. "Good night, Daddy." He stood up to turn off the lights, coincidentally noticing a painting on the table. It was a family portrait painted by Nicole last time, a family of 4. Joshua was also in the painting, standing next to Gale. At the time, Shawn had strong objections to Joshua. However, Gale and Nicole insisted on including Joshua in the painting. Looking back, Shawn felt that he was too foolish. No wonder Nicole called him foolish at that time. Seeing him staring at the painting, Nicole said, "Daddy, do you like my painting?" "Yes, Nicole, you painted very well." Nicole's eyes sparkled. "Daddy, Joshua must be in the middle of you and Mommy in this painting. You understand, right?" Shawn sighed softly. Now he understood. When Nicole painted this picture, Gale was already prepared to tell him. Chapter 1536. She had wanted to tell him about Joshua's true identity back then. He was the one who did not believe her. It turned out he had misunderstood her. It turned out Gale had no intention of keeping it a secret forever. At this moment, all the discomfort in Shawn's heart disappeared. He was no longer holding a grudge. He had come to terms with it. However, he would not let Gale know. He still wanted to put on a show of being upset. He wanted to see her trying to appease him. After being kept in the dark for so long, Shawn felt he deserved to be compensated by Gale. "I like Joshua a lot. I want him to live with us." Shawn responded, "He'll be able to live with us very soon." Nicole was initially stunned, but then her eyes lit up. "Really?" "Yes, I'll bring him back." Nicole was about to cheer, but suddenly remembered something and froze. Seeing her cautiously thoughtful expression, Shawn tapped her forehead with his finger. Nicole quickly covered it. "Ouch!" It was the first time Daddy had done that. "Daddy, why did you hit me?" She felt wronged. "Nicole, you are also one of the people who kept things from me." Nicole and Joshua were twins who had grown up together. Of course, she knew Joshua's identity. She was just a child, but she kept it so tightly under wraps. Nicole blinked innocently at him. "Daddy, what are you talking about?" She understood but pretended to know nothing. Anyone could reveal Joshua's identity but her. She could not betray Mommy. "Still pretending, hmm?" Shawn raised his voice slightly. Nicole remained silent. "Your mommy has already confessed. Are you really not confessing?" Shawn said. "Ah, Mommy really confessed? Did she tell you herself?" "Yes." Nicole's eyes flickered. "I'll call Mommy to confirm." Seeing her clever and cautious manner, Shawn deliberately kept a stern face. "Nicole." "Here, Daddy." "You helped Mommy keep the secret, not even willing to disclose it to me. I'm very disappointed," he said. He sighed again. It seems that, in Nicole's heart, Mommy is always more important than Daddy, huh? No, it's just," Nicole quickly denied. "Was too important. She could not say it. Mommy had instructed her thousands of times." "Dad, I'm sorry. I... Nicole apologized. She blinked her eyes, and tears began to form. Seeing his daughter's teary-eyed look, Shawn could not maintain a stern expression any longer. His face quickly softened. "All right. Daddy doesn't blame you." Chapter 1537. Indeed, his daughter was the apple of his eye. Even before she cried, Shawn had already softened his stance. If Nicole shed a few tears, he would feel heartbroken. If it were Joshua, Shawn would not even frown if he cried until his throat went hoarse and his eyes went blind. Nicole extended her hand from under the blanket. "Daddy, hug." "All right." Shawn lifted her, sitting her on his lap. "Did Mommy really tell you about my brother Joshua?" Nicole was still worried and confirmed again. "Daddy, you can't lie. If you lie, your nose will grow very long." "You already call him your brother, and you drew him in the family portrait of the four of us." "I'm not clueless." Nicole finally breathed a sigh of relief. She murmured, "Why didn't Mommy tell me beforehand?" She had to maintain her innocence in front of Daddy. "Dad, you finally know that Joshua is your son. From now on, he and I can play and go to school together, just like before," Nicole happily said. "Yes, just like before. The difference is that you two will have not only Mommy, but also me around," Shawn replied. "Yeah, from now on, Joshua and I are Mommy and Daddy's babies. We also have Grandpa and Grandma. Mommy has also parents now," Nicole cheered. The children were so straightforward. Shawn could not help but smile. "Nicole, do you know why Mommy chose to hide Joshua's identity in the beginning?" he asked. Nicole nodded. "Daddy, do you really want to know?" "Yes." Actually, Shawn had probably guessed. Gale raised them alone. After jumping into the sea and leaving him, she was unwilling to return and unlikely to meet him again. Unexpectedly, Nicole contracted leukemia. Unfortunately, only Shawn's bone marrow matched. Gale had no choice but to return to City and reveal Nicole's identity to save her. No one knew that she had gave birth to twins. The daughter had to be revealed, but the son could be kept hidden. Gale was afraid that he would take both children. Indeed, Nicole's words were similar to what he had guessed. "Mommy didn't tell me these things, but I knew them in my heart, and Joshua knew them too. To treat me, she had to bring me back to City. It's likely that I'll stay with you and won't be able to return," Nicole cleverly said. "But Joshua isn't sick. If Mommy loses me, she still has him by her side. She can't lose both me and him. She won't be able to bear it." Shawn replied in a low voice, "She won't lose you or Joshua. You both belong to her, and no one can take you guys away. I won't take them either." Some of his past actions had long-lasting effects, making her distrust him. This was why she had so many concerns and tried to conceal Joshua's identity in every possible way. It could be seen that Gale's concerns about him had been dispelled. Shawn proved with his actions that he was no longer the selfish and domineering person he used to be. She had truly taught him what love was. No, we belong to Mommy and Daddy, not just one person," Nicole corrected seriously. Shawn smiled slightly. He got up and left after Nicole drifted off to sleep. He returned to his quiet bedroom. Chapter 1538. He would sleep alone that night. A tinge of melancholy lingered in his heart. He had long grown accustomed to her presence by his side. Shawn took out his phone and saw a message from Gale. "Joshua's condition is currently very stable, with no major issues. Rest at home and take care of Nicole. Don't tell her about Joshua's injury. She'll worry." He did not reply, afraid of disturbing her. He just stared at the message over and over, calm and reassuring. At this moment, Shawn suddenly affirmed one thing. He and Gale would definitely have a future. She would choose him, not Aram. They had a lifetime ahead. How could Gale love Aram? Clearly, Aram had feelings for her, but she was indifferent to them. Gazing into the boundless night, Shawn tightened his grip on his phone. He had already obtained the thing he most desired. Soon, it was dawn. Sunlight streamed in from the window. Gale lay on the bedside, half asleep. Originally, she slept on the sofa. However, Joshua kept groaning in the middle of the night due to the waning effects of anesthesia and painkillers. Sometimes he would complain of pain. Other times, he said he was thirsty, incessantly talking in his sleep. To better take care of him, Gale decided to stay by him. That way, she could immediately help with whatever he needed. Gale had hardly closed her eyes until now. She could finally catch some sleep. "Pain. My neck hurts," Joshua started muttering again, raising his hand to touch the wound. Gale immediately lifted her head, grabbing his wrist. "Joshua, don't touch it. Don't move." With her soothing, Joshua gradually quieted down. Gale glanced at the window. The day had started and the sun was glaring. She closed the curtains and washed her face with cold water, trying to clear her mind. Gale gulped, looking at herself in the mirror, red-eyed, swollen. Yesterday, she shouted too forcefully, too heart-wrenchingly. She could not care less at that moment. "I look too haggard. When Joshua wakes up later and sees me like this, he'll definitely scold me. Let's put on a little makeup." Gale patted her face. She rarely wore makeup, usually opting for a natural look, but still radiant and gentle, with fair and tender skin, nothing like the mother of two kids. When Gale emerged from the bathroom, she saw Joshua had already opened his eyes. He lay quietly, not speaking, breathing steadily, gazing at the ceiling. "Joshua, you're awake!" Gale exclaimed in delight. Hearing her voice, Joshua looked toward her. As he moved, his neck followed, pulling at the wound and causing him to hiss in pain. Chapter 1539. I'll call the doctor. Gale quickly ran to the bedside, pressed the button, and said, Don't move. I know the wound hurts. Just endure it for a moment. Joshua stared at her. Big Beauty? Yes, it's me. You can't even recognize me. How could I not? I just feel you're too beautiful. I almost didn't recognize you. Joshua was still himself. He did not forget to cheer her up even when he was injured. Gale could not help but laugh. Her son was brave, mentally strong, and healthy. He did not seem traumatized by Natalie. He would use it as a learning experience to grow from it and learn how to respond to danger better. The doctor came over with a group of people, surrounded the bed, and examined him for a long time. Finally, he said, You can remove the oxygen mask. The head nurse is ready to change the dressing. Gale asked, He won't have any more problems, right? No, just take good care of the wound, change the dressing on time, and avoid water. He also needs to watch what he is eating. The head nurse brought a tray and skillfully changed Joshua's dressing. Gale stood beside him and watched. Layer by layer, the gauze was unwound. The gauze's last layer was dyed red with blood, sticking to the wound. The head nurse took a cotton swab and gently separated the gauze from the wound. It looked painful. Gale quickly grabbed Joshua's hand. Endure it. It will be done soon. She felt heartbroken, thinking Joshua had to change his dressing every day and enduring the pain. Tears were already swirling in her eyes. Big Beauty, the wound doesn't hurt, but you're pinching me so hard, Joshua said. She froze, immediately letting go of his hand. However, Gale quickly realized that Joshua was comforting her, changing the subject. How strong was she to be able to hurt him? Silly child, how did I end up with such a silly son? Gale sniffed, not letting the tears fall. As the gauze was completely unwound, Joshua's neck wound was fully exposed. The moment Gale saw it, she was shocked at how his flesh had been torn open. 3 or 4 wounds, each several centimeters long, crisscrossed on Joshua's neck like ugly earthworms. Gale saw with her own eyes how Natalie cut them. Gale could not help it and turned to wipe away her tears. It's okay, Big Beauty. Just a little painful, just a bit, Joshua said. I'm young, recover quickly, and I'm a man. These injuries are nothing. In a couple of years, you won't even see a scar. But you're different. You're a delicate lady. If you get hurt, I'll feel heartbroken. If the injury were not on him, it would be on Gale. He would rather take these stabs for his big baby. Gale, with her back to him, said, Joshua, I hope the one who gets hurt is me. You're silly, Mommy. Nobody wants to get hurt. Joshua laughed. How can you accuse me of being a silly child? Gale quickly blinked her eyes, wiped away her tears, and turned to look at him again. The head nurse had finished treating the wound on his neck and was reapplying the gauze. Joshua had no more than 10 other minor injuries on his body. Watching so many wounds on his small body, Gale could not help but blame herself. Why did she not stop Joshua from swapping with her? Chapter 1540. She could have been more stern and tried harder to stop him. Maybe the exchange would not have happened. Joshua looked at Gale's distressed and sympathetic expression and smirked. Big Beauty. What's wrong? She asked nervously. Nothing, just calling you, he said. Then Joshua asked the head nurse, Nurse, is my mom beautiful? The head nurse was stunned. Gale was also stunned. The head nurse nodded. Beautiful, yes. Your mommy looks like a young girl. It doesn't look like she's had a child. Right, that's what I think. Look, I was injured and unconscious all night. She stayed with me, but she's still so beautiful. There's a word to describe it. Something about appearance and something, Joshua said. The head nurse replied, radiant. Yes, she's still radiant, Joshua responded. Gale's cheeks blushed slightly, feeling embarrassed. I put on makeup. See? I'm lying on the hospital bed and she still has the mood to put on makeup. Oh my, I really don't know if she is worried about me or not. The head nurse did not expect Joshua to be so mischievous. Such playful kids were rarely seen in the hospital, especially Joshua, who had just undergone surgery, had more optimism and cheerfulness than many adults, who would often cry out when receiving treatment. Here he was, joking around. Gale helplessly looked at him. Stop fooling around. I'm bored, Mommy. I need something to distract me. It hurt so much. He wanted to cry out, but he felt it was embarrassing and would ruin his image. After all, he had just become a big hero. Moreover, if he saw his mommy cry again, he would cry too. That would not do. Men do not lightly shed tears. Men do not bleed and cry. Joshua clenched his fist and endured. After the long dressing change, Gale helped him put on the hospital gown. Big beauty. Gale did not respond. Big beauty. Gale still did not say anything. Huh? Joshua was puzzled. Why aren't you talking to me? Gale looked into his eyes and answered. What do you call me? Big beauty, of course. I've always called you that. You are fine with it. Why aren't you responding today? Did something happen? His intelligent brain circled around, but he could not figure it out. It had been so many years with no issue. What am I to you? Gale asked. Joshua answered without much thought. My mommy. Then what should you call me? Big beauty, of course. Gale was speechless. Call me mommy. Joshua immediately changed his tone. But Big Beauty sounds so nice. Such a loving nickname. Yes, your loving nickname is not wrong. What's wrong is me. She sighed deeply. Joshua was puzzled. Gale looked at him and said, Joshua, Mommy wants to discuss something with you. What? Your dad, Shawn knows you're his son now. Can you call me Mommy instead? Gale said.